Good. All right. If you have your Bibles, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 9. And I got to do something pretty cool this week. So last week, I introduced a new theologian. His name was Thomas Oord. And one of the things that we said, what I got to do, I got to talk with him and 6 other people. Got to ask him about what all his books and all those things. So I just kind of nerded out and really enjoyed that. But one of the things that he said was that we're kind of, that Matthew chapter 9 seems to really revolve around is this idea that love moves first, right? So in chapter 8, it was all about the authority of Jesus, right? He was able to calm the storm, like he cleansed the leper, right? All those things. It was showing him. It was showing the world that he has authority over everything. That was Matthew 8. And so as we've moved into chapter 9, and this is what Oord says, he says that God always loves first. God's love is not a response, but an initiative. Love comes from who God is, not from what we do, right? And so it's that love is moving towards you. God is moving toward us, and even if we're not initiating it, right? It's a lot like... supposed to do it at the end, but are you familiar with the Sistine Chapel, right? The ceiling, it's this idea, it's this picture of Adam's creation, like God creates Adam, right? And so God is reaching with every ounce that he has. Everything that God can reach is just reaching down towards Adam, and if you've seen the picture, and Adam's just kind of barely reaching back, right? And it's like, that's God. God is reaching with everything toward us, but is not going to make us do anything. And so it's kind of an echo. I think John really encapsulated in 1 John 4, verse 19. He says, we love because he first loved us. And so grace is God moving first. But that's not all that happened last week. So Jesus heals the man, the paralyzed man, right? Remember his friends, brought him in. They dropped him down through the ceiling, all that. But not only that, but what Jesus did is he went beyond healing, right? He went beyond healing and said, also, your sins are forgiven, right? And that was kind of the point that got everyone upset. That was Matthew 9:6. It says, but I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority to forgive sins. And then he healed the man, right? So it's grace first, and then it's proof second. And so that's where we're going to pick up. So let's dive in. To verse 9. All right. As Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. Now, there is a lot. That's half of verse 9. I was tempted to try to do the entire sermon on half a verse just to say that I did it. But I did not, okay? I did not do that. I'm going to cover more than this half. But there's so much kind of packed in here because last week Jesus heals a paralyzed man, right? And so now he walks by Matthew, and Matthew is not physically paralyzed, but Matthew is socially paralyzed, right? Because a tax collector is literally in the Bible a separate level of evil as far as what the Jews were dealing with, right? Because what was going on is the tax collector was working for Rome, but was a Jew, right? And so they're working for Rome and taxing their own people so that Rome can flourish, right? And so they're hated, they're traitors, right? Not only that, they're actually considered ritually unclean, and so they were forbidden from any religious life. They weren't allowed in the temple. They couldn't serve as a witness in court, a tax collector, right? Is that wild? Like, it is hated, right? And so the role of tax collector was really for the amoral person who just wants to gain as much as they can. That's kind of it's like, I really don't care who I'm helping or who's helping me as long as I'm making it, right? And that's who Matthew is. Matthew is hated by everyone in his community. But he's rich. And so, but let's pause here because I think it's not just any tax collector, right? This is Matthew. This is our gospel writer. He's the one that we're reading every Sunday for the last year and a half. And so the man's name on the front of the book. And so think about that. The one who was once considered, because listen, as we've been walking through Matthew, the person who is considered the most hated is now writing about all of those who have been marginalized. That's all we've been talking about, right? Every time Jesus moves, it's doing something somewhere on the outskirts. Jesus is pulling someone in, and so Matthew's like, listen, because I remember Jesus pulling me in, right? I remember that I was hated, and still Jesus came up to me, right? It's because listen, imagine. Let's go to the next verse. But as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax collector's booth. "Follow me," he told him, and Matthew got up and followed him. And I just imagine being at that booth and hearing about Jesus and seeing what Jesus has done. Maybe Matthew's been in the crowd before. But then to see him start walking towards me, like I'm hated. Right? It's like no one wants to be anywhere near me, and so I know Jesus is just going to level me. He is going to take me to task. He's going to say things that I've heard everyone say, and so here it comes. And Jesus walks up and goes, "Follow me." Like that's like. As Methodists, we have this concept of prevenient grace, and it's like this idea that God is always moving first. And so that's what this is. That is the gospel. It's that we're not worthy, and yet Jesus still walks up to us and says, "Follow me." And Matthew doesn't have to fix himself first, right? Matthew didn't have to confess anything, didn't ask for anything from Jesus. He just is there, and Jesus just walks up and says, "I want you." A guy who's probably never been wanted, whose parents are probably ashamed of him. Jesus says, "I'm not ashamed of you. I want you with me." And so again, Jesus moves first. And so here's the thing. If Jesus, if it's the nature of God is love, and Jesus is always moving first, love is always moving towards us first, then the church should be the first to move in this world, in the lives of other people. We should be the affecting force. It's right when I think later, I don't know if it's in Matthew, but Jesus says, I don't have this, don't worry. The gates of hell will not prevail. And it's like, that means they will not hold up against the attack. Like gates means defense, right? They're on the defensive. And so this whole church thing is a movement towards something. It's towards darkness, right? That's literally what we're doing. We're supposed to be moving into dark places. And so it's blessed are the peacemakers, right? Remember he said that? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they'll be called children of God. And it's not even peacekeepers or avoiders, right? It's peacemakers. And even I know we talked about this, maybe a year ago, Matthew 5:23. If you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them. Then come and offer your gift. And so, right, it's the ones that take the first step. That's what it means to be Christian, right? To take the first step towards reconciliation. Not just with God. Like God makes the first step towards us, and then we make the first step towards those. And notice in that path, it's something that someone's mad at me about, and I'm supposed to go reconcile with them, right? We are first movers. We move first. That's who we're supposed to be. And listen, we are not great. Well, here's the thing. Before we get to verse 10. You notice that everything Jesus has been doing, he's doing on the move. Right, he has not called a conference, right? He has not set up a tabernacle. He has not done any of this. He is constantly on the move, constantly doing discipleship and evangelism as he moves. It is not an event that happens. It's actually a way of life. Like Jesus lives a life of discipleship and evangelism, calling people and lifting people up. And so it should be something that we are constantly doing, not just doing it here or there. You tracking? All right. Now, we are not good. We don't do evangelism well. I know it's a scary word, right? That word like freaks people out. Because I had to take an evangelism class, and they asked, what do you think you're going to learn in this class? And I was like, well, what font do I put on my, Turner Burn signs? Is that what we're doing here, right? Like raising signs. Like that's kind of what people think about with evangelism, like we're flying signs and yelling through bullhorns and stuff. Like that's not it. It's just kind of talking. It's so much simpler than that. But we so bad want to bifurcate our life from the church. Like it's like we want the separation of church and life, right? It's like I want my church here, but I don't want it on Monday. Like I got to go to work. Everyone needs to like me, right? Because that's one of the things. Like I don't want to talk about Jesus because I don't want people to think I'm weird. And it's like you're probably weird anyway. You know what I mean? Like they already think you're weird. So it's like but how do you do it without? What is the simplest way? The easiest way to kind of begin? Because it's a hard thing to start doing, right? To start talking to people about Jesus. And so I just give you a real, a bit of an easy way to, let's first look at the Great Commission. This is at the very end of Matthew, all right? So this is 3 years away. We'll get there. Matthew 28, verse 19, right? It's therefore go and make disciples. Right? That is the Great Commission. Therefore, go and make disciples. But again, that word go is, I'm going to try this. That word go in Greek is poreuomai. Poreuomai. All right? And so what it means is it actually doesn't mean, it's not a command to go. It actually means as you go. Right? It's assuming that you're going through life. Right? And so as you go through life, you are to be making disciples, to be teaching them to obey as you go. And so how do we do it? And so I came up with two simple ways to do it. Because sometimes, so you have to keep your eyes and ears open for opportunities. You can pull that down, don't worry. Opportunities here and opportunities in life. So, there are opportunities that happen at this church, right? We do things, right? We have events, we serve the community, we serve meals, right? We do all these things, right? So these events are easy points of access for you to talk to somebody about what's going on in your church, right? It's like, because if someone brings up someone's hungry, it's like, oh, I know, I can talk about a meal program. Right, but you actually have to know what's going on here too, right? So you have to be connected to some degree to know what's going on. But so we have, if we're going to be at VBS, like someone has kids and they're talking about VBS, so it's like now I can talk about it's like you just got to look for these little opportunities when you can inject. So I'm not saying you're going up to people and go, repent. I'm not, like that's not what I'm asking you to do. But to know what's happening in the life of the church and to be able to then connect it with the lives of those around you, right? That's a very simple way. And then the other way is the opposite. Instead of looking for what's going on in the church, you look at what's going on in people's lives. And then the easiest way is like when someone says, maybe you've never been asked this before, but I bet you have, what are you doing this weekend? Has anyone ever asked you that? Right? All the time? Every Friday I get multiple people to ask me. And so it's literally as easy as hey, I'm going to go out Saturday with some friends, and then Sunday I'm going to go to church. We have this amazing bassist, and I love watching her play. And you can clap for Lana. but you just go, well, this Sunday I'm going to church, and it's just like when I listen to the band, man, it just feels like the weight lifts off me, even for a moment. Like that's a simple touch point that you can say, and you can leave it there. You don't have to dive any deeper into that, because what you're doing is you're just planting seeds so that people know, they go, because then they can go, okay, well, I know Carson goes to church, okay. Now when something happens or I have a question or something, then now they have a person, a contact point to go to and ask questions. So it's these simple things of letting people know, do people even know you go to church? That's a tough question to ask yourself, right? It's like, that's tough. So these are the things, these are the things that challenge us and that we're called to do. All right, so let's keep trucking. Verse 10. You guys ready for the heat to start? I mean, I can already feel it. I'm already getting warm up here. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came, again, a separate grouping, tax collectors and sinners, came and ate with him and his disciples. And I want you to imagine the tension at this table. Because on one side, you have Matthew, a tax collector, and all his tax collector buddies, right? It's like the hated group, right? It's like no one wants to know these people. So on one side of the table, we have all these, and on the other side of the table, you have a man named Simon, the zealot. And you know what a zealot is? A zealot, what he wants to do is he's carrying around a knife waiting for a Roman to kill, right? This is a man who is trained to defend Israel, right? Who wants war, who wants chaos, right? And so you have him on this side, and you have the very people that he hates the most on the other side. And so Jesus calls them both together. He calls both of them to serve together. But look also, what is Matthew? This is so good. New Christians are so good, or so much better at evangelism than people who've been sitting around in a pew for 30 years. It's true, because they're so excited. Look, what does Matthew do? He meets Jesus, he says, follow me, and then he goes, I'm throwing a party so everyone can meet you, right? Like, that's his immediate response. He gets so excited. It's you gotta meet this Jesus, right? He's like, that's the spirit that should be oozing from us all the time, but we get so, we want to separate. We want to separate those things from the world because it's messy, it's dirty, it's difficult. And so he gives us a perfect vision of evangelism by inviting everyone to a meal. People, they haven't been trained to separate. They haven't known. Because when I grew up, I don't know if, it's only, I think, like I said, it's later that we get cautious. And it's only after years in church that we start drawing those lines again. But in the first burst of gratitude, we're just so amazed that Jesus came to my booth and wanted me to follow him. Like, that's mind-blowing. And so it says in verse 11, when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? And so Jesus isn't just like, so with the Pharisees, like they have a bad rap, and for good purpose, right? For good reason. But to some degree, they're trying to hold on to something old, right? Something sacred, even, right? They're trying to keep the rules, right? And so to some degree, you can appreciate what they're trying to do. It feels like maybe the heart is at least in the right place, even if all the actions are off, and to some degree, like some of the Pharisees. But so when they see Jesus sitting with tax collectors, immediately in their brain they would have to go to Psalm 26. It says this. This is David. This is Jesus' great grandpa. I do not sit with false men. I hate the company of evildoers. I will not sit with the wicked. Like, that's, you know what I mean? So there is this idea of holiness in the Old Testament that is about separation, right? It's like you want to, and like especially in the law, there's all these things about, don't do this because this is what the Egyptians did, right? It's like I want a clear dividing line between you and other people, right? It's like you need to be separate. And so, but it's different. Holiness in the Old Testament is a separation, but holiness in Jesus means presence to bring healing. Because this time when God comes near, grace moves first. And so now Matthew isn't just writing, again, this to, so we've said that Matthew's writing to mainly a Jewish audience, but it's also his church, right? He's also writing to his church. And so we got to remember, like, we're reading Matthew, he's talking about a certain time, but he's writing, from the future, obviously, that's when you write from. And so there's something going on in his church, I think, that he sees happening, right? This is why he's writing. It's like he's talking to his church going, hey, we're starting to separate from the people that Jesus called us to. I think that's what's happening in his church. And so it's a call back. And he goes, hey, guys, listen, this thing that I see our church starting to do, it's something that Jesus specifically said is not who we are. And that's who, because I was raised, and I think I've said this before, don't drink, smoke, or chew, or, anybody? Hang with those who do. It's hang with those who do, right? Don't drink, smoke, or chew, or hang with those who do, right? And it's like, as a kid, that's a reasonable thing to tell a kid, right? Because the kids need guidelines, boundaries, right? All these things. But the problem is we take that, especially in the church, we've taken that, and then we take it into adulthood, right? And it's like you can't be around anybody that does any of the things that you were told were bad back growing up. It's like, but you do see it. Listen, I had a pastor that would not eat at a restaurant that had alcohol in it. Take him out to lunch somewhere. Good luck. You know what I mean? It's like, but trying to we keep separating ourselves, and so instead of growing into discernment, we grow into distance. Instead of learning to engage the world with grace, we learn to avoid people that don't look holy enough, and suddenly, without meaning to, we sound a lot more like the Pharisees than Jesus. All right, verse 12. On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." And so at first when you read that, you're going, okay, so Jesus gets it. And the Pharisees are like, maybe it's like a wink. It feels like a wink and a nod. It's like Pharisees, I'm not here for you. Like, I'm here for them. You guys are good. Right? It kind of has that, that kind of feeling to it. But then he tags it with the last verse, and he's exposing them, right? Verse 13, but go and learn first off, telling these people to go learn something is wild, okay? Because these are the people that teach, right? So Jesus is like, hey, go learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. So Jesus ends the conversation with a quote from Hosea, right? That quote comes out of the book Hosea, and it's, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. In Greek, Matthew uses the word eleos, which is like a basic term for mercy, and it means nothing interesting. But because Jesus is quoting an Old Testament passage, you have to look at the word in Hebrew. And so the word is chesed, C-H-E-S-E-D. It's a rich word that means steadfast love, covenant loyalty, mercy that refuses to give up. And so this isn't like a soft sentiment. It's fierce, initiating love of God. Chesed is a kind of love that, right, moves first. So when Jesus says to the Pharisees, when he says this to the Pharisees, he's not just provoking them, but I think he's, to some degree, maybe wanting to pull them back in. Because listen, who are you harshest with? The people that should know better, right? And these are the people that are supposed to know better, and that's what Jesus is getting at. He's like, you guys got it wrong. You got it backwards. You're putting all the check boxes in front. So don't miss what Jesus is doing. He's not just challenging bad behavior. He's revealing God's consistent character. His consistent character. Because I hear all the time, it's like, well, the New Testament God. And it's like, no, 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 no. God's character does not change. The love of God has been first to move since the creation of the world. And he has always been moving forward. And so before we even recognize him, God doesn't love us because we get it right. He loves us because that's who God is. God's nature is to love you. And if that's true, then the call of Jesus isn't just for Matthew. It's for every booth sitter. It's for every Pharisee. Every person who ever wondered if grace could reach them. It can, and it already has, because God is already waiting, already stretched, fully stretched out, reaching. Just like in the Sistine Chapel, God is reaching for you, and you just got to move towards him in all things, and he will, and that's what he calls us to do. And so who's your Matthew? Is there someone you need to talk to, someone you need to go up to, someone you need to say, you need to go, let's fix this. Move into a relationship. Is there anyone in your life